We have to understand the original manga version, written by Monkey Punch. Now, I want to know how many of you have read this. You have, really? When it came out in a manga magazine, I took glimpses of it at restaurants or the dentist that I used to go to. Oh, many of you have. Nice. Good job, guys. This is how the pictures look. Like this. They're drawn in detail. Back then, the style of comics with a realistic narrative was yet to establish, so the amount of information on each page was enormous. And Inspector Zenigata is looking for Lupin here, but Lupin is actually hiding right here. Hold on. Can you see? This is Lupin. He's disguised and in the crowd. Yeah, this guy in glasses. This is the first chapter where Lupin comes out in the manga. Stylish pictures, huh? And of course they are stylish. It's because Monkey Punch was deeply influenced by a comic artist called Mort Drucker, who was a regular contributor to a subculture magazine called Mad in the US. So this is an illustration by Drucker. Do you see the resemblance? For example, he drew a woman's thighs thick and waist narrow. Also, if you pay attention to people's palms and legs, you'd know. They are so large, as if these people have acromegaly. So these are some of the characteristics of Mort Drucker's illustration. Monkey Punch was someone who took these characteristics and implemented them into the style of Japanese comic strips. Lupin III was in a magazine called Manga Action from 1967 to 69 and became his most important work. Now, his pen name, Monkey Punch, was named by the chief editor of the magazine, who also came up with the name of Ken Tsukikage. The chief editor was a strange man, like the producer of The God of Entertainment. He named manga artists as he pleased, and he didn't even discuss them. Monkey Punch didn't like the name Monkey Punch, but he thought, oh well, it's just a temporary name until this series is over. So he accepted the name, but since Lupin III became his biggest hit, he had to keep using the same name until today. Anyway, soon after the manga became popular, its anime version was planned. You can read the background stories of this project in a book written by an animator called Yasuo Otsuka titled The Ambition of Little Nemo. This book is amazing, so you should all buy it and read. Now, I'll refer to one episode. Back then, Fuji TV broadcasted one of the first full-scale black and white anime series, Astro Boy, which was a hit. Their panicked rival broadcaster TBS decided to make their own anime as well, but there was no one to commission it to. Toei Animation stayed away from TV animes. Mushi Production was busy with Astro Boy, so they commissioned a friend of a TBS employee called Yutaka Fujioka, who was running a puppet theater at the time. Then, Fujioka made a company called Tokyo Movie that later made the TV version of Lupin III. But the request from TBS was to make an anime ASAP, so their first TV anime called Big X was on air even before the company was established. Big X was a hit, so Tokyo Movie produced the first series of Little Ghost Q-Taro. But even then, they were short of animators, so they would try to poach from Toei or Mushi Production by negotiating at their company's entrances. We'll pay you this much, what do you think? And they actually paid at the site. Pretty disgusting. But Fujioka wasn't the only disgusting one, so were the animators. When they made Little Ghost Q-Taro, they cheated on the numbers of their drawings. When one sheet was enough to draw Q-Taro, they drew the body on one sheet, a hand on another, eyes on the third, and a mouth on the fourth. And they claimed 6 sheets as their workload. They ripped off amateur staff members who accepted them easily. As a result, those animators made good money. Later, Otsuka confessed that it was tough to find those cheating animators and fire them. It's a famous story. Some people say that animators have always been mistreated, but that's not true at all. They were making a sucker of those who didn't have knowledge about animation. People were living strongly back then. So, after Little Ghost Kyutaro, Tokyo Movie made Star of the Giants in color, and this was a huge hit. They grew in confidence after Star of the Giants. Next, they made Lupin the Third to target an adult audience. So, what was going on during that time? It was 1968. Lupin the Third was still in the magazine. At that time, Yasuo Otsuka, now a veteran animator who was an animation director of the Castle of Cagliostro and is still working. He is quite a character. But anyway, at that time, he was at a racing circuit in Chiba for his hobby. I don't mean a racing circuit for toy cars. You take your own car there and race. So, Otsuka owned the same Fiat that Lupin drives in the anime. It was Otsuka's favorite car. He drove his Fiat to Chiba and raced around the circuit vigorously. He was in the actual competitions, so he was playing the real games. One day, he noticed this strange guy who had always come and sat near him. He was wearing light brown sunglasses and he could see his thin, shady-looking eyes through the lens. And the guy went, "This place is amazing. So what do you do for a living?" "Oh, anime, huh? Erg, Japanese animes don't know how to draw cars." Then he said, "So you are an animator. Can you draw these real cars racing in the circuit this powerfully? I don't think you can. I don't think any Japanese animators can." Somehow this mysterious guy kept pressuring Otsuka. Otsuka was like, "What is wrong with this weird old man?" The guy was actually Fujioka, the CEO of Tokyo Movie, and Fujioka was trying to headhunt Otsuka, just like he did to Mushi Production animators. Otsuka was a staff member of Toei Animation at that time, but Fujioka wanted him in his own company and to join Lupin the Third, so he came to the auto races every week, which he wasn't really interested in, just to entice Otsuka little by little. Eventually, though, Otsuka started thinking, "What a weird guy, but he's kinda interesting." However, by then, Fujioka had already recruited a colleague member of his puppet theater called Masaaki Osumi as the director of Lupin the Third. But Lupin the Third was struggling to find a sponsor and broadcaster. They set the goal to make an anime for adults, but no one ever wanted such a thing. All animes were targeted at kids, and no matter how cheaply made, they all earned a 20% or 30% viewing rate. It was that kind of an era. A fun anime would earn 40%, boring ones 20%. So the makers thought there was no point in doing extra work or risking themselves by making an adult-targeted anime, which PTAs would attack. Sponsors hated the idea as well. But Fujioka was an eager man. Meanwhile, he also obtained the copyright of Moomin. This was because Big X was a manga by Osamu Tezuka. Little Ghost Kyutaro was by Fujio Fujiko. And Star of the Giants was by Noboru Kawasaki. They couldn't make a profit out of Japanese mangas because the publishers owned the rights. Fujioka was ambitious to make his businesses bigger and global. He was one of the first people in Japan to start anime adaptations of juvenile literature. That's why he first bought the rights to Moomin and made it into an anime, which Otsuka joined as a production team member. Meanwhile, Miyazaki and Takahata thought Toei Animation had no future, but Tokyo Movie did for producing Moomin. So they joined A Production, which was a subsidiary company of Tokyo Movie. Then they tried to make Pippi Longstocking there. Sorry, I'm deviating a bit. So back to the timeline, Miyazaki and Takahata joined. Okay. Right here. He entered A Production in order to produce Pippi Longstocking. But even so, they couldn't receive a green light from the author of Pippi Longstocking. That's the overall flow.